Hi everybody, it's Neal Weichel with RE/MAX as we get near the end of September. Today's video, 4 sellers will be answering the question, which a lot of sellers are curious about, and so are the agents. Are sellers still compensating buyer brokers to bring their buyers by their home and help them get it sold? In other words, these new contracts that we're working off of, what's really happening in the marketplace, right? Now, I'm going to start with a little article that I read this week because I'm curious just like all of you are. What's happening out there, right? Are sellers still paying buyer brokers in some way, shape, or form to help get their home sold? And what we're seeing is in certain markets like Austin, where there's a lot for sale and the sellers are motivated to sell their homes, for the most part, they're still across the board paying buyer brokers to bring their buyers by. Tighter markets like, say, San Francisco or Boston, they're seeing less of that. Like the negotiation is taking place, right? Maybe a buyer broker says, hey, I want 2.5% if you accept my offer, Mr. Seller. And Mr. Seller says, gosh, I got 5 offers. I'll pay you 1% or 1.5% or some number that's maybe less. So what's happening here in Santa Clarita, all right? Now, I'm going to show you a copy of an old listing agreement. We're going to put it up on the screen, and you'll see that in this particular listing, it was a 5% commission, and in the lower right-hand corner, you'll see 2.5%. Before, I was required through the MLS to offer that to all the buyer brokers, okay? That's before August 13th. Well, today, here's the new agreement. You'll see that number is, in fact, cut in half, right? It's a 2.5% commission, and the reason it's not 5 anymore is I'm not offering half the commission to the agents out there, okay? Not advertising it. I'm not allowed to do that. Now, in the new agreement, though, there's a box that I can check, and most of my sellers want to check this box that says the seller will consider concessions. Now, that's code for, to all the buyer agents out there, bring your buyers by, and if your offer's good enough, I'll consider crediting you the buyer broker fee that you have with your buyer. Meaning the buyer won't necessarily have to pay you. I'll compensate you if I net enough money. That's really the bottom line for most sellers. So here in Santa Clarita, in the last 5 weeks, we've had 11 offers come in. All 11 had a buyer broker agreement attached to it. Most of them were asking for 2.5%. We had a couple asking for 2. We had one asking for 3. In all 11 cases, the seller looked at what they were netting and said, I'm good with this or I'm not. I had a condo in Valencia. It was listed for $575. An offer came in at $565. There was a buyer broker agreement for 2.5%. My seller said, I'll pay something, but I'm not paying 2.5%. I'll pay 1.5%. They were willing to do that to help get their home sold. The deal was put together. I had a property in Newhall with $749,000. Buyer broker agreement comes in, 2.5%. My seller wasn't willing to give 2.5%, not at her asking price. She expected it maybe to go up. That deal didn't come together because, unfortunately, that buyer did not have enough money to pay their buyer broker. Okay, if they were going to have to pay that 2.5% commission, they didn't have it. So the deal didn't come together. Almost all of the transactions we've worked on since this started have come together, and they've come together with the buyer asking for, through their agent, buyer broker fees, and the seller being willing to do all or at least a major part of it. We'll see what happens if we move on in the future, if this changes. My expectation is that it's going to be very market driven. If you've got a high demand house and you have 5, 6, 7 offers on it, maybe you don't have to pay a full buyer broker fee, or maybe the highest offer you're willing to consider because it nets you the most. If you have a situation where there's lots for sale, many sellers are going to say, hey, I'll pay the buyer broker fee. I just want to get my home sold. Market driven. And that's what we're going to see moving forward as we answer the question, are sellers still paying fees? The answer is most of the time.